Good afternoon, happy Savage Saturday, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and on Savage Saturday, episode 165, we're asking the question, should more indie publishing companies that deal with IP of someone else's take the same approach as Titan Comics has with Conan the Barbarian? That title has been spectacular, but before we get into that, we have to ask a few other questions that have to do with indie comic publishing. Some of the pitfalls that they face, some of the things that happen, and what they need to avoid to have the same kind of success that Titan Comics has had with the Conan the Barbarian title. Now, 5 pitfalls that I see personally for any IP that's at an indie company, and you will see this with other companies. I don't want to name names, but there's some companies out there where I'm waiting months and months for the next installment of a book. It's been, at least for one IP that I'm watching and reading and really interested in, it's been a year now and I'm still waiting on issue 3 to come out. Now, so that brings us to number 1 of a pitfall for these indie companies to not fall into is do not miss your monthly deadlines. You know, us as readers, we count on those deadlines. We count on that book being monthly. It's part of why we sign up for it. Nobody wants to go back and reread a couple months worth of books, like 3-4 issues, because it's been a year since your last one. We want those to come out regularly. We want them to come out monthly, and we want to know that the people who own the IP that we're interested in take this IP seriously. Now, that's something Titan Comics has done greatly, and we're going to discuss the whys later, but it's something they've done greatly with Conan the Barbarian. The first year, 12 months, 12 issues. The first 2 months after their initial year, issues 13 and 14. They've been on a set monthly schedule. You know when your books are coming out. You're not waiting. Every month it's there for you. If it's on your pull list, it's in your folder. You have it to read, and they've done a spectacular job with keeping a schedule, keeping a publishing deadline, and having this product available for us as the consumer to buy, consume, read, and come back next month and expect it there, and it's there. That's big. That's probably the biggest one for me, is publishing your books on time. Excuse me. Next is distribution, right? Distribution can be very iffy with comic publishers that are indie developers, and I don't think that's a problem that Titan Comics faces. I think there are most comic shops, especially with a big IP like Conan the Barbarian. But for smaller publishers that are trying to get a hold of IP and publish books, distribution is an issue. So that's something that they have to tackle on their own. If you're getting a big name IP, you might want to shop that out a little more. Try to get yourself in more comic shops and make that more available. I think distribution is such a huge part of these things being successes. And then 3, we're looking at inconsistent quality, right? Sometimes a publisher will get IP, they will not get the best artists or the best colors, or they might not have the best storyline mapped out. They don't have a proper plan in place. Things aren't coming out the way they should be. They're not looking the way they should. Sometimes they appear rushed. Sometimes the story feels rushed. And when you're reading it, or you're looking at the art and you're looking at the lettering and the coloring, everything has a rushed quality to it, or an unfinished feel. And that is a big hit against any IP that these companies get and that they are put in charge of. Now, for financial stability of the company, again, there's something else we don't really have to worry about with Titan Comics. Obviously, I'm not the owner. I don't know their situation, but they've been established now for a little bit. They're putting out great titles like Gun Honey, Heat Seeker, so many others. The Alloy one with Horizon Zero Dawn. So they're getting established IPs, plus they're doing new IPs, and they've been successful, and they're publishing on time. So I'm not really worried about the finances of Titan Comics. Where if another place gets an IP And I've seen this happen with past ones that I'm really a big fan of, and the story never finishes. Now, as a fan, you want to be sure that when this company gets your IP that you love, not your IP, but you know what I mean, an IP that you're interested in, that they're going to be able to keep publishing this, that they're going to be able to finish the story. They're not going to run out of funds or distribution to get that to you. And it's a big problem sometimes. Luckily, I haven't seen that with Titan. Everything's been smooth. And so this is something else I think IPs, when they're bought from publishers, the publishers have to consider this, right? Are they going to be able to complete this story? Are they going to leave the fans in a lurch if they can't? Right? Do they have a plan to get the completed story out? It's tough. It's a business. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And last is understanding the IP, which is something I think Titan Comics understands, not only with previous IPs that they've had, like Horizon Zero Dawn, but also with Conan the Barbarian and the various other Robert E. Howard characters that they have stewardship of. And that is huge. A lot of times you'll see a company get IP, whether it's an indie company or one of the big two, and you see that the creators who are behind this IP have never really delved into it. They don't really understand it, and it distances you as a reader because instantly you see that this property that you love is not getting the respect it deserves. If you're going to buy an IP and you're going to publish an IP, make sure you understand the IP and you know what about that IP appeals to its readers, and make sure you have a healthy respect for it. Don't buy something you're not going to respect, you're not going to do your due diligence on, and you're not going to read. All right, so now that we're through that, we're going to get to why I think other companies can learn from the Titan Comics approach to Conan the Barbarian. Now, this was a huge hurdle because Conan had a 50-year storied history in comics, right, since 1970. And the IP is even older than that. It reaches all the way back into the 30s with Robert E. Howard and him publishing it in the pulps back then. So what do you do with an IP that's this old? Well, hopefully when you get a hold of it, you respect it and you do it right. And here's how I think Titan Comics has done it right. First, they put someone in charge of the title that has a love for the IP and understands the IP in Jim Zub, right? That is huge. Jim Zub is a great steward of the Conan IP. He really understands it. He knows what makes the character tick. He knows what's important to the world that Conan lives in and also the other Howard characters. So that's a lesson right there that all these other indie companies can learn from. And two, you got to think about the teams. Now, you have Jim Zub writing it all, but you have two teams that Jim is associated with that are publishing these books, and they go in 4-issue arcs. And this is something that is, to me, quite brilliant, right? So for the first team, you have art by Roberto De La Torre, you have color artist Dean White, you have letterer Richard Starkings. And for Team 2, you have artist Doug Braithwaite, color artist Diego Rodriguez, and letterer Richard Starkings. And you also had Tyler Smith doing some lettering in these various Conan issues. So right away, you have it set up. You have a 4-issue arc, all done by Robert De La Torre as the artist, Dean White as the color artist, and your two mainstays are Jim Zub and Richard Starkings. And they do their arc. They have time to do their arc. And this is where I think splitting the teams up is really important. They have time to spend to make the book as good as they can. To spend the time making the panels sharp, making the art sharp, making the colors sharp, making the lettering sharp, and just bringing a complete story to you and having the time to spend doing it. Just like the second team that comes in with Doug Braithwaite and Diego Rodriguez, they have time while those other 4 issues are being published to spend the time perfecting the art, perfecting the coloring, and creating a complete world and a complete story along with Jim Zub and Richard Starkings. So I think this formula, rotating the team, especially the artist and the colorist, every 4 issues, is really creating a strength over at Titan Comics in the Conan the Barbarian title. I think it's a main reason why the quality's been so high. You don't see a lack of quality in any issue, whether it's the writing, the lettering, the coloring, or the art. It's all been super strong. There hasn't been a weak issue where it looked like it was phoned in or it looked like it was rushed. They all look like they've had the proper amount of time spent on them. They're all complete, sharp pieces of product that when you see it, you're wowed by it. All right, so I think that approach, every 4 issues you have a different team, and a team that understands the world that they're dealing with, right? Now, Roberto De La Torre's art is completely different from Doug Braithwaite's art, and the 2 color artists are also different. But the thing they understand is they know what makes Conan Conan, they know what makes Hyperborea, the Hyborian Age, and they know what the feel, what the atmosphere is, and they all excel at getting that across to you on the page. And like I said, it doesn't feel rushed. It feels complete. It feels whole. Every issue you're getting with this, not only is it published on time, it's published with care, and each issue is a labor of love that you're getting as a consumer when you put your $4 forth to get this issue. It is complete, it is whole, it is the IP that you love is respected. Nothing looks rushed. Nothing has a lesser quality about it. And that is where I think other indie publishers can learn from Titan Comics in their approach to Conan the Barbarian. Now, I know that was a long-winded way around everything, but I thought it was important for me to at least point out where I think indie companies can sometimes suffer. And not just indie companies, I'm not trying to pick on them. The big 2 do it as well sometimes. But the proper respect for IP, the rotation of the team, 2 completely different teams between artists and colorists that understand the project, that understand the character, and understand what the writer is doing and nail it in their own way. And you go from seamless transition to seamless transition, page after page after page, beautiful art, beautiful story, beautiful coloring, and all of this just pops, and it gives you a finished product that you enjoy holding in your hands, reading, collecting, and when you set that book down, you don't feel slighted in any way. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Do you think the Titan Comics approach to Conan the Barbarian should be adapted by more companies that are the rotating artists, so the deadlines are always met, so quality is always there? Do you agree with me on the 5 points I made? All right, do you think you see companies suffering from this where it's giving them issues having to support and make product for the IP that they now have control of? But that's it for this week, guys. Hopefully you agree. I hope you enjoyed the stuff I put on the side. And until next time, thank you for watching and keep it casual.